What's goody, folks? Half up, half down. We're almost done with the Gauntlet, but we've got 2 matches left. My name's Tom, that name's Ryan, and your name's Chat. We're going to get things going underway. So we just saw Elevate make a couple of roster swaps, and they were able to topple the Challenger Cup team, and now they're going to move on to some SPL competition.
I mean, a lot of, whenever that game first started, Chat, you and I were talking back there, it's like kicking Nulissa, what are they thinking? Nulissa looked so good during their group. It was kind of a head scratcher for a lot of us, but when Faeles comes out in the jungle and looks that good, and then WorldEdit looking solid in the mid lane as well, can't really argue with the 2-0 up against Cyclone.
I mean, for me, I got to see them against relevant competition. No offense to Cyclone, obviously, but that team, I think, is a much different brand of competition than what we're going to see against Cringe Crew, and then mayhaps against Dignitas if Elevate make it that far. I did post on Twitter that, well, I can't exactly repeat what I posted on Twitter, but I was kind of surprised, let's say, to not see Nulissa on the roster, and I was granted with some sort of insight from somebody that I know somebody, and blah, 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 saying that there was a internal struggle between Nulissa and Dardez and Jermain. And while at the end of the day, I still think Nulissa was a relevant part of that team, internal struggle is something that can tear apart a team no matter what the talent level of those players. So I'll respect it, but like I said, I do got to see how this roster goes up against some of the tougher teams. Faeles of the Jungle has always been a solid 5 for me, right? Out of 10. I'm not really blasting the kid. I feel like he's all right, and that is the top of superlative I could ever give him.
I mean, he looked good thus far. And
yeah.
it really, like you mentioned, even if the mechanics aren't quite there, the combination of Nulissa and WorldEdit may have had better overall mechanics, but if you're working a little bit better with your counterpart now, if the overall team synergy is a little bit stronger, it's way more important than the amount of mechanical plays that you can pull off.
And like a couple of people had noted, I was rather impressed with what WorldEdit could bring to the mid lane. I think he definitely had a couple of good plays there. We saw a long range snipe out of him as well, which was rather impressive. So I am cautiously optimistic about this Elevate roster. Let's put it that way. That's the same way I feel about the Train Spotting sequel. But in any event, Elevate taking on Cringe Crew here. We'll see how this one works out. Picks and bans, bring them to me.
Right now. Right now, there it is.
So Cringe Crew on the left, Elevate on the right. They've got their selection as far as the first ban and the pick is concerned. Cringe Crew, that is. Where do you reckon they go?
Terra. Look for Terra for EmilZy. I'd be very surprised if they didn't try to do that. Raw banned away right away.
Yep,
Elevate looked very good. Jiffy in particular, aka WorldEdit, looked very strong on that, banning it away. And then Elevate is on the same page that I am, bans away the Terra.
Yeah, I think the Ra and the Arlong Shen bans out of Cringe Crew are very, very important. The Ra looked, WorldEdit looked strong on the Ra, and in general, Arlong Shen can set up Ra, but also other characters as well. Just take him out. He's a little too strong. 2 Guardians banned out, so Elevate looking directly at EmilZy right there.
I mean, we're going to have to see what they're going to go with. It is going to be EmilZy locking in the Athena. I really like this pick here. The top 2 supports have been taken away. Let's grab the third. Let's grab number 3. Though we did see that it was Dardez who looked really strong on that Geb in the last set. A Geb is a counter to Athena, makes her life a little bit harder, but this is probably going to Repikas in the jungle as well. I mean, Repikas undefeated on Athena in competitive play throughout his entire storied career. He hasn't been able to play it a ton, but every time he has played it, he's won.
So I won't say likely, I'll say that because it's the option that Cringe Crew have. Right now, I feel like they don't have to put Athena in the jungle. The Jing and the Raijin, I think you have some other options, and the Batz will be the selection for Repi in the jungle. So Jing and Raijin, I like these choices. I think Dardez is a hard carry player, so you give him the tools to do so. Sobek, Dardez gets his signature Sobek as well. It's a very strong duo lane over there for Elevate right away. And then Raijin. Raijin is a character that, if you're newer to the mid lane, it's probably one of the gods you're focusing on, so WorldEdit going to pick that one up.
He looked strong on it in game 1 up against Cyclone. I've got no problem with him picking it up again here. I am surprised that Athena is going to Repikas, because just like talking to Repikas, he's the kind of guy that whenever he knows he's good, he's got one god in his pocket. I'm very surprised he was able to give up that Athena to EmilZy. Janus for Kero, I mean, this is the only god really for me that he looked comfortable on in Group C at LAN. Sure. Obviously, he's looked a lot better overall during the online performance, but this was the god that really impressed me from him, and you could see the team stats there. 5 out of 6 times they've picked it, they've gotten the victory. Surprised that Elevate was able to give that up.
Yeah, the Hunbats, keeping on the conversation about Repikas as Thor is selected for Elevate's jungle. Hunbats is interesting to me. I mean, the Jing, the Raijin, the Sobek, there's not a lot of cohesiveness here, meaning that there's not a lot of the head bone connected to the neck bone. I'm not seeing a epic uppercut into an ultimate, right? There's not a lot that I need to disrupt. Hunbats is a disruption character, so we'll see how the Hunbats works. I don't dislike it, but
I just love the team fight coming out from Cringe Crew. Cringe Crew's team fight right now is really, really solid. Fear No Evil, through space of time, is going to be able to move the team throughout the fight, as well as the mobility. I mean, you've got the double global coming out of Athena and Janus. You've got late game damage coming out of Freya and Hunbats. I mean, Hunbats has the potential in the late game to just one-shot a backliner with the passive if he's able to roll some crits. If he builds something like a Deathbringer, a Maulus, he can really get in there pretty quickly. I really like Cringe Crew's composition as a whole. However, Elevate also has a great team fight. They're more of a pick composition. You're going to be looking for Thor to find someone rotating around in the jungle, but their team fight is excellent exclusively because of MoGoW, basically. As long as you have any sort of sustain, your team fight's going to be really solid, and they've got it in that Guan Yu solo.
Yeah, I'm really leaning towards Elevate, to be honest with you. As much as I do love my hard carry Freya, you guys have been listening to me for a long time now. Fortunately and unfortunately, depending on how you feel about that. But I love my Freya, you know it, and I think that there's a lot of tools here to sort of enable her be that guy. But at the end of the day, I think Elevate's a little bit more well-rounded. They've got some burst, they've got some sustain, they've got some control. I think at the end of the day, Elevate has a number of tools ready for a number of circumstances, whereas Cringe Crew is sort of like, well, if we get in trouble, we blow a Fear No Evil, and hope.
Yeah, but it is Shaggyshenk on this Freya, and Shaggy looked so strong during Group C. He was really the one who kept Cringe Crew in it. I think it was EmilZy who tweeted after one of their games, thank God we've got Shaggyshenk. Otherwise,
absolutely.
We'd be in a ton of trouble. Cringe Crew, I just feel like it was a stronger team during the group stages. They went up against stronger competition and looked a lot stronger. But with Elevate making these roster changes, you can't really predict easily how they're going to look here today.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at history and sort of dictate where these players have been in the past, and I think Faeles is about as accomplished as the rest of the guys on Elevate. I don't necessarily think that the switch to Faeles from Nulissa was an upgrade as far as mechanics is concerned, but I value team synergy very, very highly, and if there was an issue between Nulissa and the rest of the crew, that is where I'm going to really be interested there. So Faeles, I will say, thankfully, that he is going to be working out well with WorldEdit from what we've seen so far. So for Elevate, I'm very interested in seeing how this roster goes, but I agree with you. I think Cringe Crew on paper, Cringe Crew, until we see otherwise, is the stronger team.
But Shaggyshenk is actually the one getting bullied over here in this lane. Jingwei Sobek, just so much displacement available to that lane. Shaggy gonna just try and run away. EmilZy gets plucked back in, gonna take a decent amount of damage, but I like the pathing, backing up to make sure he doesn't get knocked up by that tail whip.
And that's what you have to let happen every time if you're Shaggyshenk. As a Freya, you kind of just have to let your partner get into trouble, because outside of that banish, you don't really have many tools, and you're likely going to need that banish to help yourself out. Mischarge Prey coming out of the Sobek, and EmilZy's going to slyly punish him. I think EmilZy wanted to get him under tower, but not so far.
Bit of a problem here overall, though, for Cringe Crew, because both EmilZy and Shaggyshenk are out of health potions already. Sitting less than 2 minutes in, you can see EmilZy below half health. Shaggyshenk is right around 2/3 HP. He'll have the benefit of life stealing from his passive, as well as the extra sustain from Vampiric Shroud. And EmilZy will get a little bit of health back from the passive from Watcher's Gift whenever Shaggyshenk kills those minions.
And
but this is what I was going to ask for. Let's see Elevate start to zone away these two later game characters.
And I mean, this is exactly what you kind of expected out of Elevate. It's no surprise to me that, there's a lack of health potions on the side of Cringe Crew. Elevate have pretty much had this dual lane. They've struggled, like I said, they're not exactly the #1 team in the league, but one thing that they have always been able to hang their hat on is the fact that their dual lane is very, very strong. So Jermain and Dardez are able to really knock out Shaggy and EmilZy, and I expect them to really exert their pressure for the majority of this laning phase.
The problem here is now you can see they're willing to push up that lane because they don't, but they're going to back up afterwards most likely because Kero has hit level 5. That Janus mobility able to get him and Repikas there in a hurry could spell trouble for that duo lane. Faeles actually went aggressive there with the ultimate, tried to find it onto Repikas and Kero. but they were both able to get out of dodge.
And that's going to be a key for Elevate, is staying aggressive both on this mid lane and maybe even on the solo side of the map because of what you just talked about. Cringe Crew do have the option and the tools to really bail their dual lane out of jail, and so Elevate have to really make sure that that's not going to be an option by forcing the mid laner to pay more attention to elsewhere on the map. Right now, Elevate are the ones that are going to be exerting their pressure, and they're going to look for the red buff invade. Not only look for it, but find it relatively easily. The counter invade comes out from Repi. On the side of the jungler's buff, the speed buff goes down.
Cringe Crew willing to take this trade, willing to split the red buff 4 ways for Elevate to trade it out on this right-hand side, and it's usually better to go for the invade on this right-hand side because if the opportunity presents itself, you've got 2 buffs available to you to invade. You've got the speed and the blue. That time, Repikas doesn't go for that blue, but it's okay to trade that out there.
So early on in this game, nobody really hinting towards who's going to be able to take a lead. Usually you get to see a team maybe not have the lead, but make a couple of better plays. So far, I think we've been even across the board. The dual lane has been rather dominant, for Elevate, but meanwhile, across the rest of the lanes, everything seems about even. And we've had sort of counter invades coming out next to counter invade. Where do you think these rosters are going to wind up in, let's say, 5 minutes when the 10-minute mark hits?
In 10 minutes, I think I would still favor Elevate's composition. I mean, Faeles able to get a ton of power from his passive, could really turn a fight with a big dunk into a spin. WorldEdit's still going to be doing more damage than Kero at this stage in the game, barring Elevate, really group up for a through space and time and unstable vortex. I think that Elevate has the early pressure, and then once MoGoW comes rotating in, they will still have the advantage in the team fights unless you'll be able to find a burst kill from Cringe Crew. And that's one thing that Cringe Crew's overall composition could lack. If Kero isn't on point with these ultimates, if he isn't in the right spot to really delete someone, if it's just poke and back up, it's going to really favor Elevate with that heal from MoGoW.
And, talk about ultimates. We've seen one out of Faeles so far. But how much of Thor, he's got the potential for early game pressure. And when you look at a god like Thanatos or Raven, if they don't use that early game pressure, it's considered a mistake. How much of a mistake is it for Faeles not to go aggressive?
Very little, if at all, really. I mean, he could look to bully out the Batz because Batz's early game isn't particularly strong, but both of their mid games are excellent, Thor and Batz. I've got no problem with the way Faeles is playing this. They're willing to farm it up a little bit. I would like to see Elevate be a little bit more aggressive as soon as the 10-minute mark hits, as soon as the shift of the game will start to focus over to that duo lane side. I'd like to see them make sure that Shaggyshenk doesn't get his 3 core items online comfortably. He's already got one. He's got one in the Faeles. Don't let him get boots and Telkines or Demonic as well. EmilZy going to get picked off here, and as soon as he does so, the jungler and the mid lane come to help out. Kero follows up with the ultimate out of the Batz. To the sky goes Thor, looking for a dunk, completely off the mark. Faeles winds up in the middle of nowhere, quite literally, and everybody walks away. Kero just too slippery, man, on this Janus. Dardez was in a little bit of trouble. I liked the quick response from Kero on this Janus to send the through space and time towards EmilZy. It got him and his team there, as well as gave EmilZy an exit route if he so needed it. A couple ultimates burned on each end there. No one really comes out on top.
Very well played by Cringe Crew, like you said. As soon as there was trouble, Kero showed up alongside with Repikas, and Repi threw down the ultimate more defensively than anything else, not really looking for a kill. EmilZy was the one in trouble, so Cringe Crew able to bail him out.
Exactly. In looking at the 2 mid lane builds here, both started with this Dynasty Blade helm, but you see that WorldEdit's actually elected to finish the boots before finishing off that helmet, whereas Kero has gone for the helmet rather than the boots. So besides the obvious answer of WorldEdit's faster and can move around a little bit better, this means that Kero's not as worried about the poke coming out from Faeles and is a little bit more damage.
Nice damage on a Dardez. Big stuff coming out of those gumballs. Likely going to see first blood here. Shark is just about out, but the nice knockup out of both players, and Dardez going to be fine. Lift out of the Hunter player, and Faeles is able to take out Shaggyshenk despite everything going in Cringe Crew's way initially. Elevate with the fantastic counter application.
I can't believe Dardez just lived.
Wow.
I mean, he was juking around in there forever. Shaggy needed one more basic, the double knockup from Jermain, and then Faeles comes in, hits the double tap without any setup, picks up first blood, and that is such a big turnaround because getting Freya that first blood would have put her in a great spot to accelerate towards that late game and really get those items online that we were mentioning. Instead, it's Shaggy who takes the first blood. Faeles gets a little bit closer, actually able to finish off that Hydra's Lament before Repikas can, and look at the gold difference already already building between Jermain and Shaggyshenk. We saw Jermain and Dardez able to zone out that duo lane earlier, and then just the farm potential coming out of Jing, whereas Freya struggles to farm in the early game, already 600 gold there.
And that right there is just keeping him cool. Dardez 100% gets out of there. We've seen him play at LAN, and you're able to look at the player cam. Dardez is one of the more cool players involved in the SPL. Kero going to get landed on again. Actually, I don't think that one missed. I think it was just actived out. Faeles winds up taking a bite, however, and Shaggyshenk in trouble again. A great portal out of Kero, but there's the jungler waiting at the bottom. Fantastic play to Faeles to set up the kill for WorldEdit. Make that 2 for the mid laner, 2 in total. And WorldEdit already off to a nice start alongside Elevate.
Another perfect knockup by Jermain sets up the kill for WorldEdit there. Now MoGoW hops on the horse, gets the double
Probably
stun.
too much here.
Nothing here. Nothing here for Elevate to take. Go to the Gold Fury. This is your time. You got 2 picks. Through space and time isn't available. No Athena ultimate either. You only have to worry about Zyrhoes.
Loved the play at a Faeles right there. Understood that Kero was going to give the portal to his hunter player and able to go ahead and plan that and make the change. Gold Fury goes down and stolen by Cringe Crew. EmilZy takes it away with nothing in the kit. Well done by the support player. And Zero's going to have to get out of town as well. Elevate with a beautiful, honestly, set of plays in a row and wind up just gifting the Gold Fury away due to lack of zoning.
And all of that, all the kills that Elevate have gotten, they're sitting up 4-0, all completely negated because they can't time their burst on the Gold Fury correctly. We saw
Just
the wall
zone.
come out from Faeles, trying to zone EmilZy away, but it just wasn't well enough time. There wasn't quite enough damage. Even Jermain pops the ultimate to try and burst down that Gold Fury, but just not understanding their total damage. Really unfortunate there on the side of Elevate, but you also have to give a lot of credit to EmilZy. Like, he looked like he was going through some sort of obstacle course there, getting bounced around by Dardez, stunned by Faeles. He's bouncing around all to finally get in there, lay down the shield wall, and steal it away.
There's a lot of individual crowd control coming out from Elevate, but not a lot of area denial, and I think that's one of the issues. Faeles looking to look for Zyrhoes here. Zyrhoes not very tanky at all, just boots.
Faeles has not looked quite as good on this Thor. That's. I think that we can wrap it up talking about that, basically. I mean, he looked really, really strong on that Hun Batz. Erlong he looked great on as well, but this Thor, the ultimates haven't been where he wants them to be.
EmilZy.
Did he beats?
Yeah,
Jermain still hit the purification.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that situation, when you're running
That's
away,
good. That's fine.
You can, it's definitely a huge win for Cringe Crew. But you know, Twitch chat, you know, EU relic forehead, whatever. But you can't really afford to get turned around in that scenario. So you have to go off the sound cue.
But he hit it after the fact.
Right, but you have to go off the sound cue. So
Sure.
he hits it off the sound cue. It never hits him, but he never knew that it wasn't going to hit him. He can't turn around there. I'm trying to help him out here, F-Dot.
And I'm not in a helping mood right now. 4-0. Elevate, they're in a helping mood. They're up about 1,000 gold here, actually just about 500. And that is a lot less than they would have been earlier. You can see that giant jut forward from Cringe Crew. That's a stolen Gold Fury by EmilZy. He took it away. I don't even think Shield Wall did it, frankly.
It was the reach?
I think it was just the reach. I think Shield Wall was already used at that point. So back to what I was saying before, Elevate have a number of individual CCs, but they don't have a lot of area denial. There's not a lot of scary things that... You're disagreeing. Why is that?
Lurking in the waters, in that
Sure.
scenario, it was down.
That's it. Yeah.
So I see your point there. The wall could be used as area denial. Instead, it was used more as the stun. But at level 1, that stun does not last very long. So maybe I would have preferred to see Faeles kind of go out wide and then use it to block off the escape, make it so that EmilZy's only option to steal that Gold Fury was with reach.
Ditto.
But overall, I still think even with EmilZy getting in there, you should still be able to time the amount of burst you have with a Raijin, with a Jing, and with a Thor to burst the Gold Fury down from 500, 600, 700 HP, way more than Shield Wall can do.
Well, right now, a little bit of a capture, but all right, no problem. WorldEdit pops up with the ultimate, but he's too slow. Gets taken out by Repikas. Down from the sky comes Faeles directly into a portal out of Kero. Nice blink away is going to allow the monkey to be safe for the moment. Shaggyshenk's in the sky, looking for both damage and safety. The rest of Cringe Crew will group up and spread out very quickly.
Clean pick on the WorldEdit there. Must not have had the purification up, or maybe he did. He jumped away and then immediately went up into the Taiko drums. But the problem is, you're still taking the tick damage from Fear No Evil. It's still at that point. You're still getting hit in the face by Repikas. He popped his Purification to make sure that he couldn't get CC'd out of it. Faeles did hit the ultimate that time, just unfortunate timing. Hit Repikas while that Purification was still available. Clean pick onto WorldEdit. Costs some 3 ults, but it's worth it. You gotta
exactly.
shut down that Raijin.
Yeah, I think WorldEdit just kind of underestimated, 1, the aggression coming out of Cringe Crew, how willing they were to dive the tower, and 2, the damage that was going to come out of Repikas so early. He popped over the ultimate. I think a lot of people would agree that using the ultimate is probably a better choice than using the Purification when you have both available. So WorldEdit makes the, arguable correct choice, but it winds up being the incorrect choice because of how aggressive Cringe Crew elect to be. But I think that kill is very important for Cringe Crew. It's hard to look at that 0 when you're down, especially 4 kills, right? It's really hard to see that 4 zip, but as soon as you're on the board, you get a little bit of momentum.
A little bit of confidence. You want to get someone getting on a roll. Exactly. And Repikas is a great person to get confidence on too. I mean, this is a guy who gets hyped up. He likes to make the big plays and be the star. And he was a star of that engagement for sure, diving in under that tier 1 tower onto WorldEdit. And you can see the Europeans love to play Batz. I mean, he was the prioritized jungler during Cringe Crew's group, which was Group C. It was Batz's first pick for Obey.
Why do you think that is specifically in Europe?
You see this. Well, in Europe specifically, they like to team fight pretty well, and they like to really they have a lot of disruption overall. The team comps are a little bit different, but I think it just really comes down to personal preference and particular players' god pools. More junglers in Europe just have that Batz comfortable on that god pool.
EmilZy getting picked one more time behind enemy lines. He tries to dash, he gets knocked up. Portal available, but it's blocked out by this Crocodile. WorldEdit able to make him pay.
Nice CC chain there. Again, Jermain on point, but the Purification is not from Kero. He pops it in midair, is gonna get out for now. Faeles goes up into the air, he's looking for Kero, but everyone is diving onto Dardez.
And Faeles still yet to choose a target, lands on the Shaggyshenk, but Shaggy's in the sky. No stun, Sanctuary is going to save him from the Berserker's barrage, and Faeles goes deep, but Jermain able to make 1 pay. 2 kills already for Elevate, only 2 down as well on the other side, so 2 dead on Cringe Crew, 1 dead on Elevate side. Elevate, again, going to try the Gold Fury. You know, that right there, I can't rash Faeles too bad for that. He lands onto the Freya. That was a fantastic wall. Almost gets the kill on a Repi, but he's taunted out. Faeles in some trouble, but this is exactly the type of zoning that Elevate need. Gold Fury goes down, and it's Elevates this time around. EmilZy going to get punished for his try. Will he die? Absolutely. Jermain finds kill number 3. He's been involved in 7 of the 8 kills that Elevate has been able to amass so far, just shy of 3,000 gold in the lead.
Jermain has looked so good this game. The knockups have been perfect. He saves Dardez's life in that boar camp earlier on in the game to save the first blood. There, he places it perfectly yet again. He's level 17 right now.
Yeah.
3-0-4, second on the player damage charts, tops on his team. Jermain gets talked about a lot as one of the premier hunters in Europe and possibly the world. There's a lot of, well, Jermain can be really good if he plays it seriously, and if he could be on a better team, maybe we'd hear more about him. But we're talking about him more right now. He's looking great thus far.
Yeah, I mean, Jermain has always been one of those guys for me. I mean, even in the flashes that we've seen, I'll be honest, the Myrmidon's teams that have sort of been created before have been, frankly, terrible. I think that this iteration of the Myrmidons, make no bones about it, you still got 3 players here from Le Myrmidon. Excuse me. I think this team is a little bit better. I think all the individuals are a little bit better, but Jermain has always been the constant for me. I think that Jermain right now is pretty much just showing what he's always been capable of, and he's buckled down a little bit. I think coming to LAN has enabled players like Jermain and WorldEdit who have not necessarily treated their job as a joke, but not really seen it as a job per se, been able to take the game a little bit more seriously. And in that, I think that the seriousness has come some success, and we're looking at it right now.
EmilZy gets a taste of his own medicine there, at least his team does. The blink Sobek pluck, I think of EmilZy when I see that, but that time it was Dardez, forces out the Purification, fails off the mark, does get the wall hits the wall, over the wall, underneath that mid tower. Kero wants to defend this speed buff, hits Faeles with the through space and time. But Repi's just, he's just going for a little ride. He just wants to take those portals, man. They're fun.
I do it all the time. I think it's a lot of fun.
There's no reason not to. I mean, they're there, right? Go have a little bit of fun.
Well, look at that. That fun distracts Cringe Crew away from the move into the mid lane. Tower taken down to about 25%, if not lower. There's the Taiko drums at a WorldEdit delivered directly into Kero's forehead. Mid laner takes out mid laner. And Kero going to go to the base. 3 players left to defend the tier 1 tower here in the mid lane. Looking for the flank is Dardez, or excuse me, Faeles. Can't find the kill onto Repi, but able to chase him out. The rest of Elevate will chase out Cringe Crew. There's a tier 1.
That's twice now that Kero has popped Purification after getting plucked by Dardez. He's glowing gold in midair, and that doesn't do a whole lot for you. Dardez has looked so good on this Sobek. The jukes, the engages, the blink plucks, it all looks great.
Love Elevate hiding behind the wall one more time. EmilZy gets picked off, and he's going to get put down. Jermain again. 4-0-5 for the Frenchman. Fantastic play right there. Fails, goes a little bit deep, but he will be able to escape, and I think it's my turn to be good cop. Kero, sure, he hits the beads a little bit late, but what we've been able to see out of Elevate is the chain CC. Using that purification in the air doesn't help out, but when you land down, you're not going to get knocked up a second time by Jermain or whoever else is there. Maybe that's his thought process.
Or he could use it earlier and not be in the air and can't get chain CC'd because he's where he's standing. You know, that's a possibility too.
You know what? Yeah, he totally could. Absolutely. 10-2, and it's 19 minutes in. And we're seeing Cringe Crew having trouble with Elevate.
So right now, Cringe Crew just has to play it out. Just wait for Shaggyshenk to become the carry that they need. Maybe not the carry they deserve, but the carry they need in the late game to kind of get them back into it. Shaggy's sitting at 0-3-2 right now. Has just not had that impact that he wants to on this Freya. We talked about how we'd like to see Elevate really make the impact on that left-hand side of the map. Once those fire elementals stop spawning on the right, make sure Shaggyshenk doesn't get those 3 core items online early. And they did just that. Shaggy at 0-3-2 has just now completed that ring along with the start of another penetration item. He's gone for the demonic grip, which means that he's going to have more penetration on his auto attacks. And now it looks like he could be going into a Spear of the Magus to help boost both his and Kero's damage, or possibly an Obsidian Shard as well. Though there's not a whole lot of point in getting both and getting 2 Obsidian Shards here. Spear of the Magus and then for Freya and an Obsidian Shard for Kero, I think is the most optimal way to go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to bring a lot of damage coming out from this mid laner, for sure. And he'll have to combat the damage of the Raijin. Although playing the Janus, I think your role isn't necessarily straight damage. You only have 1 damaging ability, so Shaggyshenk in a little bit of trouble. Chased out by a couple of players, tossed up into the ultimate, and Kero able to turn around and deliver that damage to WorldEdit.
Great taunt there by EmilZy. He gets knocked up through space and time, hits Dardez. He's going to be juking in that camp. Not going to get out this time. Kero picks up another kill.
2-1-2 for the mid lane. Kero going to claim that slash line. Gold Fury's up one more time. Cringe Crew stole Gold Fury, and now they're looking to take one for themselves. Elevate going to come in here, not quite zoned out. Nice knockup coming for Jermain, and they're looking just for the kills. Faeles takes a bunch of damage, but able to deliver it back with a long-range hammer toss. Well done.
Jermain has to retreat. He's level 20 though. Sanctuary's gonna buy him time for now. Shaggyshenk trying to get in onto this backlighter. Another perfect knockup from Jermain. Shaggy is gonna get knocked up. It doesn't save his life though. Kero picks up his 3rd kill. MoGoW trying to run away, but the late game, or the mid game Freya rather, starting to come online. The first kill there for her, and now that's 4 dead spread out over the time for Elevate. 2 members have respawned, but the Gold Fury still being looked at.
EmilZy.
Huge dunk! That was great. He almost got the Gold Fury, but no kills. I can't believe they all lived. They got off the Gold Fury perfectly, and they secure it. The collective HP there between those 3 members is what? 350?
I honestly can't tell.
It's like 350. And so close, but Faeles gets blown up, was just too low off that dunk. It was perfectly timed almost got that Gold Fury. He was standing up in the sky forever, waiting to come down, waited as long as he could. Just not able to steal it away. I like the idea though.
I love the idea. I don't think you have another option there. Faeles has had an interesting game so far. His slash line looks fantastic. 2-1-7 with the 1 death coming from a you must make this play situation. So I respect it. But Faeles has been in odd positions. He's had some pretty not so hot ultimates, but It's interesting. I think the mistakes that we've seen Faeles make have been forgettable because of how fantastic the upsides have been this game. Like I said, we've seen some questionable decision making in Ultimates, but when he makes the right play, it's the absolute right play.
And remember, this is the first time we've seen Faeles on this roster. You know, he's still getting used to playing with the rest of Elevate. The earliest he could have joined this group was right after Group B. I don't know when they made the change from Nulissa to move WorldEdit to the mid lane and then add on Faeles. So it's tough to say exactly how much practice he's gotten with this roster, but it is still new. Another blink pluck in from Dardez, pulls EmilZy back. That time knockup's off the mark. WorldEdit going up into the Taiko drums, taunts him in. EmilZy's got nowhere to go.
Dardez through the wall.
Dardez is just setting up everything for Elevate right
That's
now.
what Dardez does. Repikas gonna pick off the enemy support this time. That'll be a turn of events coming out for Elevate, so they've got 12 kills, but Cringe Crew have been able to answer back a number of times. It's 12-8 so far.
And we see the Void Stone actually being picked up by Dardez. The recently buffed Void Stone getting a little bit of power for himself, as well as magical protection. Not going to be super tanky with the magical protection. Heartward Amulet doesn't give that much magical prot. It's more about giving the magical protection to you and your team. And then that Void Stone going to be stripping away the magical protection from the enemy as well. So a little bit of a semi-hybrid, still mostly tanky for Dardez, but if he's hitting these plucks the way he is and could set up some big lurking in the waters on characters like Shaggy and Kero, that Void Stone could come in handy.
And this is a build that Dardez has been going, not necessarily the build straight up, where you see the Spirit Robe right after the boots, but Dardez has generally liked the Void Stone or the Power Boots. You see Dardez building a little bit more aggressive than some of the other players, on the Sobek specifically. Repikas looking to line up a gank, but the Jing player will be too smart to get taken advantage of. Jermain plays it safe here. Dardez over there farming in the mid lane.
Doing his best, man. That Void Stone helping out with those auto attacks. Zyrhoes been putting a lot of pressure onto this tower the entire game, finally able to find it. We haven't talked about his build at all, but going for the Ichabod really helping him box away. He wants to do a little bit more damage himself.
Right now, he's the one taking damage, facing attacks bound from pretty much everybody. EmilZy going to show up some help, and Janus is going to ult.
Just as the option.
I like how Elevate are waiting by those portals, just waiting for Kero to walk through.
Exactly. Just come on, see if you can come make a play here. Shaggyshenk pushing down this left-hand side. Not the greatest tower push as Freya. We talk about it a lot with Freya compositions. You don't really have that excellent tower push that you would with another hunter. He is able to pick up that tier 1 tower, and he did end up going for the Spear of the Magus. Again, this is probably the best way for him to do it. And another blink pluck, that time purified away immediately by Repikas, but you're willing to trade out that blink for the purification any day of the week.
Especially when it's followed up by the damage out of Kero. You can see the portal come out, and it's going to set up the Unstable Vortex, which takes about half of the HP pool away from Sobek. So Dardez going to heal up a little bit thanks to a couple of sickening strikes in the jungle, but that one certainly hurt.
And it will continue to hurt. I mean, we almost see the Rod of Tahuti completed for Kero. He's sitting at level 20. He's got the penetration online, especially if both he and Shaggyshenk are hitting the same target. Those unstable vortexes are going to chunk for a large portion of the enemy's health. And you look across the board, outside of Dardez, there really isn't a whole lot of magical protection. You don't see any straight up magical protection on MoGoW. The Spirit's Robe and the Hide of the Urchin both going to provide some, but no HP. In fact, MoGoW has no HP in this build whatsoever. I really would have preferred to see him go for something like a Pestilence maybe, get some health and magical protection. In fact, you see WorldEdit's the one going for health and magical protection, building in to that Talisman tree.
And that'll help him out immensely. You can see he's 5-2-5. He hasn't been punished too much, but certainly wants a little bit more survivability.
So early on in the game, WorldEdit goes for the best build, which is not necessarily the best build, but it's the build that the best goes on Eager.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome. He goes for this build that Best loves to go, and that's the I'm going to kill the first target that we target, and I'm going to kill them instantly. It's the most DPS that you can get from your first 3 items for a relatively cheap cost. Soul Reaver pretty expensive, but this is the call, and I'm going to blow you up build early on. He goes for the Obsidian Shard to help with that as well.
Which has worked fantastically because Elevate have that pick composition.
Exactly. He's able to follow up off those blink plucks, off the dunks in from Faeles, the knockups from Jermain, all that kind of stuff. And now now he's going for the I want to live during my ult build, going for some sort of magical protection, because he knows if he gets hit by an unstable vortex, that's going to do half of his HP. If Shaggyshenk is able to just free cast on him in those Taiko drums, he's going to die no matter how much damage he's putting out. So I like the idea. He's going to need a Rod Up Tahuti here at the end to make sure that he's doing enough relevant damage. But you can see, I mean, he's sitting at just under 10,000 damage right now. He's been doing his job. I've got no problem with this magical defense.
No, I think it's an interesting way to go. We'll certainly see if it works out. It's great in theory, but how does it work out in the battlefield? We'll take a look at that. Cold Fury being aggressed on down to 90%. Just Jermain so far. The rest of Elevate lurking around the corner. I think they want more of a fight than anything else. It's EmilZy that's going to go in. His team isn't there, though. And now EmilZy is going to get helped out by a totem, thanks to the jungler. But Kero's going to get taken out before he walks through his own portal. Faeles now up in the sky as Jermain finds an exit on the right side. Looking for a target as a Thor. Can't seem to find it. Lands safely. And WorldEdit can't say the same about him. He gets taunted into all the damage. Meanwhile, off screen, jungler for jungler. Faeles winds up above Repikas, and Shaggyshenk finally takes down WorldEdit.
And here's the problem: is Shaggyshenk is still full health. You've killed 2 damage dealers, but what about the big one? What about the Freya? He's got the Pythax piece online, boosting both his and Kero's damage and EmilZy's damage. Shaggyshenk's after my own heart with this build, dude. He's going the right penetration item. He's building the Pythags when he's the magical carry. I love it. I love the build.
This is definitely the Imprez aggro build. You love these items.
Yo, Shaggy and I are tight, dude. Great taunt. Jermain is getting shredded right now. Knockup going to save him for now, and right into another knockup. Again, the knockups from both Dardez and Jermain, really tough to deal with for Cringe Crew.
And the damage at the Shaggyshenk is just incredible. And this is at the point in time, we always talk about those 3 items being necessary for Freya to start going at it, but once you're able to pile on the penetration after those 3 items come online, that's when she gets very, very scary. And you just watch Jermain absolutely melt out of the damage from Shaggyshenk. And I feel like Elevate sort of missed their window of opportunity. Freya's going to be able to sort of come around and usurp the lead that Jermain had. He was up maybe 5 levels at one point, but now it's all Shaggyshenk just delivering the damage into everybody he looks at. 1 for the money, and there's 2. That's the show. Kero winds up with the second one, and the third one as Zyrhoes winds up taking down a target. 3 kills for none. And Cringe Crew just looking hot as the game shifts into their favor.
The game felt like it was so heavily going towards Elevate, but then you look at the gold lead and it's pretty much even. Cringe Crew
now it is.
Did a great job of just holding on, just waiting until we get to late game, playing around this mobility composition that they have. Their team fight is phenomenal, and Shaggyshenk's positioning, as usual, is on point. Faeles dunks in, trying to steal the Fire Giant. Again, I love the idea. Not quite in time. He should be able to get out here. No, the blink ult from Repikas pops the Mantle of Discord. Faeles just buying time, wasting the time, really, of the rest of Cringe Crew. Repikas finishes them off with the big 560 crit.
And that's exactly what this Cringe Crew team needed to do. They needed to just sort of doggy paddle and wade and tread water. I don't know, EmilZy certainly didn't have to get picked off 5 separate times, but oh well. Maybe they were trying to give Elevate a little bit of sense of superiority. But as soon as that half-hour mark hits, Shaggyshenk is just slinging damage out like it's nobody's business. That was the goal of this team, really. I mean, even Repikas stealing damage now, that was the goal of this team.
And there's the blink pluck again, but Shaggy purifies it away immediately, and Dardez has to be careful moving on to do that to Shaggy because he can get turned on easily. Great double jump in, but their portals are there. WorldEdit uses the ultimate, but there's no one to hit.
That's Janus, man. Janus is not... So Janus is not the best character in the game, but his utility is so you can't measure it, right? You can't really put on the scoreboard how much utility those portals bring. And had any other mid laner been there, Elevate winds up getting 3 kills, if not a 4th, right? And instead it's Janus, and he's able to just literally save the team.
Janus just does so much for you, and you mentioned it there. The utility, you can't really put a value on it on paper because it's not always going to be there. It's just when it is there, you're like, wow, this character is really, really strong.
He walks through walls!
Kero again, and he makes his teammates walk through walls too. It's like a phantom for your whole team.
Oh my goodness.
It's really not anything like a phantom for your whole team.
Like a phantom.
I mean, kind of. You walk through walls.
Get it.
That's what I was going for. Kind of.
I mean, I get it.
It just was, yeah, it wasn't great. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm sorry. You know, whenever you like play your first Smite game of the day and you're just like missing everything?
Yep.
This is my first cast of the day and I'm missing everything, but I'm gonna get warmed up and we're gonna be good to go. I'm feeling confident.
Are we?
Today's going to be a good day.
All right, I hope so. If not, you're buying me lunch. Or dinner. What time is it these days?
Yeah, it's probably going to be around dinner time.
Yeah. This is the one day of the year that I just didn't wear a watch.
Really? 364 days this year you wore a watch, but not today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a watch guy.
What terrible luck, Tom.
I'm a watch guy, man. Right now, Elevate have to watch Cringe Crew as they're headed up and looking to group up. The Fire Giant's still on them for a couple of minutes, so they have the opportunity.
Right now, I'd love to see Dardez look for another Blink Pluck onto Shaggyshenk. Doesn't have that purification for 45 seconds. He's been the one that's been the problem for Elevate. They haven't been able to deal with him. Pluck is up right now. Shaggy, still no purification. Faeles can dunk in. They could CC chain him before he can get that Sanctuary off. That's the key to victory here for Elevate.
Absolutely. I mean, Shaggyshenk is Cringe Crew right now. If Shaggyshenk goes down, their damage dealer is Batz, right? Like, they don't really have much to it, so Shaggyshenk absolutely needs to be the isolation target.
And that's one of the reasons you see that Cringe Crew is not going for a Phoenix right now, is because that very important relic is not up for Shaggyshenk. Let's just get the gold off the map. Let's make sure we've got enough to finish off all of our key items. You can see Shaggy doesn't quite have that rod off Tahuti yet. And then now when the purification is up, you can make the play for a Phoenix instead of pushing down these towers.
So Cringe Crew are going to start their push towards the Phoenix. They have the Fire Giant pretty much just for this push. There's the taunt in from the Athena. Everybody from Elevate looking towards Shaggy. The pluck off the mark, but the Fear No Evil perfect. And the ultimate out of Shaggy's going to take down MoGoW. Damage out of the Janus as he makes his way to the back line as well. Phoenix still the target. And the players are going to go down. Dardez in trouble. EmilZy dashes forward. Can't find it. But it's fails on the back line, trying to push Cringe Crew away. But they're finally able to take down the Phoenix.
There you see the Fear No Evil on the two tanky targets, but it's perfect because it just sets up autos for Shaggy. He's doing so much damage, but speaking of damage, tons coming out from the Phoenix. Double dunk in from WorldEdit. He's trying to get the damage.
Jermain.
Zyrhoes does fall to Jermain. Shaggyshenk get a fall to Faeles as well. This is starting to go in Elevate's favor.
That's the bite back that Elevate need. The Phoenix is tough for Cringe Crew to take down without a guaranteed tower sieger on their squad. They're going to have trouble taking out these Phoenixes, especially in the event if they don't have the Fire Giant. So Elevate, they want to bite back. They want to be able to make these counter plays, because for them, taking down these towers and structures is vastly easier than for Cringe Crew. So Cringe Crew are always going to look for the fight, whereas Elevate can get a little bit more tactical and look to just get a couple of picks and then look for a quick rush.
And that's why we see Kero on this Janus being so impactful on these Phoenix sieges. You don't usually think of Janus being impactful in those sorts of situations, but to make it so that Elevate has to fight you by getting behind them with through space and time opens up that tower push opportunity. That's one of the reasons why that middle Phoenix siege was so successful, was because of the Fear No Evil allowing Shaggyshenk to pick off MoGoW early on. And then the through space and time chunks a couple players, forces them back, as well as gives Cringe Crew an option to push through and fight Elevate instead of trying to go on the Phoenix.
And here's the Fire Giant push this time from Elevate. You can see Kero on the right side of your minimap getting ready, and he decides against it. Janus will head back to base, and that seems to be the call from everybody except for EmilZy and Repikas. Half HP on the Fire Giant, and here comes Zyrhoes as well. So Elevate are not in a position to really just burst this one down. Ultimate out of the Janus is used, and it's not going to be found onto the Fire Giant. It's just used to find the fight. Like we said, Cringe Crew want to find the fight. Double taunt out of EmilZy. Here comes Zyrhoes with the wraparound. Repikas with the double kill. 2 for the monkey, and there's 1 for Shaggy. Fails answers back on the backside, taking out Kero, but the damage has been done. It's 1 kill for Elevate as they stare 3 dead members in the face. Shaggy gonna push up the rest of the base. The fire minions are trickling in. Just 1 Phoenix down, but Cringe Crew think they can end.
And it's all because of the damage from Shaggy. Look at how fast they're going to shred this Titan. Perfect engage from EmilZy, finds 2 with the taunt. Repikas picks up the double with the perfect Fear No Evil on top. Titan is getting low. A couple members fall for Cringe Crew, but it's not going to be enough. What looked like Elevate's game comes turning around immediately. Cringe Crew able to find the first game here against Elevate.
And that was just excellently played by Cringe Crew, understanding their composition and exactly when they were going to hit their stride. Elevate, as we said, had the sort of correct composition in the lead in the beginning, but that's sort of what you expect out of that roster, rather that composition, excuse me, not the players, the characters. players.
Exactly. I mean, it was just wait for the team fights in the late game, wait for Repikas to make an impact with these Fear No Evils. Kero had great positioning in the late game, gets picked off in that last team fight, but it was Elevate committing so much to him that the rest of Cringe Crew was just able to push forward and kill everyone else on the team. I mean, Kero with the Unstable Vortexes off the follow-up from the ult from Repikas at the end there was really big. And again, we talked a lot about it. Shaggyshenk just waiting. Okay, it's go time. And it's time to go, and Cringe Crew really play around him well.
You know, it's interesting. You always hear when it comes down to these Freya characters and these hyper carries, it's all about, you know, just push him down, put him down in the early game. Well, they didn't necessarily put him down, but they sieged forward with their own hunter, right? There was a 3-level, maybe even a 4-level differential between these players at one point in time, and I just feel like Elevate didn't utilize that. They got Jermain off to a tear, and nothing really happened.
Yeah, Jermain was massive in that game. He was really doing well, and you're right. They probably didn't do a good enough job of making sure they continued to push that down. I mean, we talked about the lack of tower siege for Cringe Crew, but Elevate's tower siege was really solid. I mean, and it was Dardez setting up a lot. Dardez had a great game, that game with the pluck, setting up for a lot of the damage from Elevate. It just so happened that they were able to find return kills. It was, they'd pick off EmilZy, and then Dardez would die in return because Repikas would use the Fear No Evil to set it up. Zyrhoes did a good job of just being the bully in the late game. He was a big reason why we didn't see Jermain make an impact in those late game team fights. Overall, it was just Cringe Crew showing their experience together as a team, working really, really well together, and understanding that they didn't need to win the early game to win the game in the end.
Absolutely. Cringe Crew certainly take game one. This is the best of 3, so we'll see if they're able to win this one right now.